I think that trust is probably genetically programmed in us, in the sense that we come into this world as mammals, warm-blooded, pretty helpless, needing support to actually survive those early days, months, for humans, years. And that trust is such that in the beginning, when our basic neural networks are being laid down, and what I mean by that is our brain and our nervous system is being fleshed out, created in such a way that we can actually deal with the world, right? So with a newborn, there's this sense of where do I end and where does everything else begin? And then perhaps a very crude way of saying it, once that's kind of established, you know, I can smash my foot against the side of my crib until I realize, wow, I'll stop doing that because the crib is not me and it hurts when I keep kicking it. Then it's making some discernment and some discriminations about how to deal with the not me or the other, right? And the other can be the sunlight coming in the window. It can be the sound of my mother's voice. It can be the warmth of nourishment, you know, in my mouth and then going down into my belly. It can be, it not can be, it is everything. And in this process of, we trust, right? Because we don't know what it is to not trust. We're just learning on such a basic foundational level. After a certain period, we just take in, you know, the caregivers, the authority figures around us, right, that are keeping us alive, are telling us, you know, you can pet the dog, but don't touch the cat because she'll scratch you, and whatever. They're telling us everything that's pretty much unfiltered, going right into our little brains because we don't know how to discriminate. Oh, that's not so accurate, or that's not really true, or wow, that's a pretty important one. I need to remember that, right? That only comes afterwards. So in one level, perhaps that's the most basic form of trust that we have. We just take it in until we've got enough to try and start thinking and experiencing or judging the experiences that we have on our own. And then we begin to see following that advice or following that truth leads to pain all the time. Doing it a different way maybe leads to pleasure. So we then begin to question, right? So maybe that questioning is the first level of learning that if we have trust, there's also something called not trustworthy.
Okay, all right. So as just a quick follow-up on that, and then we can end in just next 5-7 minutes or so. See, when we use the word trust, it seems to me that there is a great sense of openness. There is being, it's almost like the word faith, but it's different, not in a religious way, but there's a very distinct emotion that's associated with trust, and it's like latching on and or even letting go, and if that trust is betrayed, there is a tremendous amount of pain in many cases.
Yes, it's a huge rent in the relationship when we feel that our trust in someone or something has been betrayed. So I'd like to, because we don't have a long time here, I'd like to just talk about trust in adult relationships.
Please, yes.
And one of the things that is very, very important is that we recognize that when we're in a relationship, we have expectations. The other has expectations. We don't often ask ourselves, really, what are my expectations? Because no one single person can meet every expectation I have. That's why I mean, we're a gregarious species. We seek out more than one person in our lifetime. However, if we don't examine what our expectations are in a particular relationship with a particular person, we can never articulate what those expectations are to the other. And they in turn can articulate theirs to us, knowing full well that the other will be able to say, yes, I will always try and do that for you, or this is beyond my capacity. I can't always, whatever, or I can't meet that expectation. And I think that that's a missing component in the beginning of building a relationship. And we we use the term falling in love. We kind of lose rational critical thought when we have such a strong physical or intellectual attraction to someone, and what I expect from the other goes right out the window because I feel so good right now, right? I'm falling in love. Other people call human love a form of insanity sometimes, because we do just stopped being rational about so many things. However, to know if I want to sustain a relationship with this other person for any length of time, I need to be clear about what I'm expecting from them, because those expectations are running along basically mostly at a subconscious level until they're not met. And then all of a sudden they become very conscious, and we feel, you would never do that to me if you really loved me. Well, the other may have no idea that you were expecting that from them. So this conversation about expectations in an open way in the beginnings of relationships can go so far in building a healthy ground for trust to grow, because real trust is earned.
So, and then just in closing, could you just briefly talk about the relationship, if you can kind of connect these pieces together, between trust, love, energy, and expansion? Just a couple of summary statements that hold these ideas together.
Okay, so trust and love are different forms of energy. If we're talking about, all right, this is pretty complex. Let's talk about human love right now.
Yeah.
Human love is conditional. Not every human being can be everything another human being wants them to be and take care of themselves at the same time. So the energy of trust can be built consciously within a relationship if we are able to know ourselves well enough to know that we want and need two different forms of energy, but to have certain things met in a strong, close relationship. We have to know this about ourselves before we can then speak to the other about how this is an expectation we have and what a good, healthy relationship is about.
Okay. That was Dr. Elizabeth Berman, licensed psychologist from Wilmington, Delaware. She is part of our core team in the Angel Wing program. Many, many thanks to you for today's wonderful insights on trust and relationships. We will see you again next time. For all listeners who are watching these podcasts or YouTube videos, please remember that we have multiple programs going on. Please visit the website, theangelwing.com. and we hope to see you on any one of our programs. Thank you very much. Beautiful.
All right, Sachin, thank you.
You did it.